know Mrs. Katz very well, but almost every other day his mother stopped in to see her after work. Since her husband died, Mrs. Katz is so alone. The next day, Larnell stopped in to see Mrs. Katz himself. That is my husband, Myron. He comes from Poland like me a long time ago. We had such a life, such a life. We had no children, and I'll be alone for Hanukkah and Passover. The next day, Larnell stopped in to see Mrs. Katz himself. I've been thinking, cats and kittens in the basement of our building? We found someone to take all of them, except this one. She's a runt. No one wants her because she's so ugly. She doesn't even have a tail. Ugly, you say? My Myron was ugly too when he was little, but he grew up to be such a person. Scrawny little boobala, so small. No tail? I don't know, Larnell. I'll take her, but only if you help me with her. I've never had the cat before. A good Yiddish name I'll give her. That's it. We'll call her Tush. Two people who seem so different, an old Jewish woman and a young African-American boy. As they grow close, they learn they're not so different after all. Mrs. Katz and Tush by Patricia Polacco. Little Tush grew healthy and strong. Mrs. Katz cooked for her, brushed her, knitted toys for her, and even read to her. Such a person, she'd say, as she watched Tush play. Mrs. Katz was in love. Larnell kept his promise. He visited Mrs. Katz and Tush every day after school. There was always fresh baked kugel and a tall glass of milk waiting for me. But as much as I grew to love Tush, I also loved to listen to Mrs. Katz talk about the old country and the way times used to be. I come from Warsaw. That's in Poland, you know. I come here sewing dresses in the garment district for my cousin Moshe. I didn't speak one word of English. Then how did you talk to people? I didn't a lot in those days. I cried. Until I met Myron. He asked me to marry him after he tasted my kugel. I believe that. We used to vacation to Catskills, a Borscht resort. You know, a place for Jews to stay. You mean Jews could stay wherever they wanted to? My grandma told me about the places she couldn't stay either. Larnell, your people and mine are alike, you know? Trouble we've seen, happiness too, great strength we've had. You and I are alike, so much alike. Now where was I? Oh yes, Catskills. We used to dress up every Sunday and have a costume ball. You hear that, Larnell? That is what we used to dance to, the dance of our homeland. Here, I'll show you. As weeks passed, Larnell spent more and more time with Mrs. Katz. Since you're almost family to me, I want you should say Kiddush for my husband Myron. I know you're not Jewish, but he would have liked you. Larnell, you're such a person. At the cemetery, she read from her book. Then she asked Larnell to place a small rock on top of Mr. Katz's headstone. We do this to remember. Shalom, my Myron. Kugel. Oh, such a kugel I have baked for you today. Hurry, Tush will be worried for us. Tush! 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 Oh no, I forgot to shut the window before I left. Poor Boobala, she's never been outside before. We'll find her. She's been acting strange lately. She's been trying to get outside, but I was afraid she'll get hit by a car. We'll find her, Mrs. Katz. I won't let you down. It was getting dark. First, Mrs. Katz and Larnell looked around the apartment. Then they left notes on doors, telephone poles, and fences. They asked everyone who lived nearby, but no one had seen little Tush. That night it stormed. There was rain, awful, awful rain. Mrs. Cat hardly slept as she thought of her little Catala. She's such a person, such a person. Larno worried most of the night, too. What will Mrs. Cat do, he thought. Please, God, bring that little cat back to her. The next day, a loud knock at the front door awoke Mrs. Cat. It was two neighbors. Is this yours? My boobala, little Catala? We found it in the back alley, soaking wet and hungry. Thank you, thank you. After a while, Tush no longer had the least desire to go outside again, but she slept a lot, even when Larno came over to play with her. It was at my Aunt Havola's Passover Seder that I met Myron. Did you know that? What great times they were with lots and lots of family. Now it's just me. Could I have Passover dinner with you? I thought you'd never ask. Such a Seder I'll prepare for you. Like your people, my people are slaves too. They lived in a country where they didn't want to be. They wanted freedom so much that they prayed to God to help them. So he sent an angel that brought death and sadness to the house of our captors. But the angel did not visit the house of my people. How did the angels know where the Jews lived? They marked the doors. The angels passed over. Passover, Larno, that is why we have this big feast to celebrate. But we also remember those who had to suffer so we could be free. Part of this dinner is sad, and part of it is happy. As Larno helped get out the linens and china. Do you see this tablecloth? This was our wedding chuppah and canopy. We use it for holy days and celebrations. Why do you have so many different dishes? Because some Jews don't eat dairy and meat off the same plate. When they sat down to Seder together, Mrs. Cat lit 2 candles and waved her hands above them. She read from her book. They said prayers. And she said, let the feast begin. They drank red wine and water. They ate bitter herbs, lamb, and chicken. They also had gefilte fish, spicy chopped apples with potato pancakes. This bread looks like a soda cracker. It's matzof, dear. It's flat because there's no yeast in it, so it doesn't rise. Larno, I have hidden 1 piece of matzof in the apartment. If you can find it, I have a surprise for you. The surprise was a hand-knitted sweater she had made just for him. The next day, Mrs. Cat yelled out her back window to Larno's apartment, hurry, come quick, something wonderful. Larno and his mom and dad rushed to the front door. The angel of death passed over, but the angel of life didn't. Mazel tov, Tush. 4 babies, at last I am a bubby. As years passed, Mrs. Cat's Tush and her descendants became part of Larno's family. There were graduations, weddings, new babies, and finally a kiddush. Larno stood in front of Mrs. Cat's headstone. He read from her book and placed a small rock on top of her headstone. Then his wife and their children read the inscription together. Mrs. Cat, our bubby. Such a person.